So what I'm going to be doing now is working on the stippling. Basically what I'm going to be doing is taking a Dremel with a sanding drum and basically smoothing out all the surfaces on the side. I'm going to do it around the Glock logo to hopefully preserve that Glock logo, keep it intact. I'm going to take off the texturing on the front, take off the texturing on the back. The owner of this one wants me to keep the finger grooves, so I'm going to keep those mostly intact, but I'm basically going to smooth it out so I have a nice clean surface to start the stippling with. And then I'm going to draw basically the outline of where I want the stippling in pencil, since that'll give me a good line to work off of, and pencil's going to wipe off very easily once I'm done with it. And then as far as the actual pattern itself, I'm going to be doing the sprinkles pattern, very similar to what you've seen if you've seen my Glock 21 that I've done. But I have this Weller, soldering iron that has this flat tip that came with it. If you don't have one that comes with it, I know Weller does sell the bits on their website, so you can pick it up. Mine came with both a fine tip, a flat tip like this, and then an even wider one. For me personally, this gives it a very nice look as far as the sprinkles pattern, as I like to call it. But again, you'll be able to see exactly how I do that. But first, I'm going to fire up the Dremel, get everything nice and smoothed out, and then we will go from there. Alright, so switching out to a finer drum just to kind of smooth out the surface to make it a lot easier for me to actually start stippling. Alright, so at this point, got most of it pretty much smoothed out. Normally, if it's a Gen 4 Glock that has the more aggressive texturing on the grip, what I'm going to want to do is actually smooth that out as well. But because the Gen 3s are a lot slicker, hence why people like them stippled, I don't really need to go over and do that. So at this point, I'm just going to kind of draw out the rough outline of where I want the stippling while I let my soldering iron warm up, and then we'll get started. Alright, so now that I have my outline drawn up and I have my soldering iron ready to go, I'm just going to try to outline that line as best as I can around the whole thing, or at least just through the top. I'm just going to work my way down from the top to the bottom. The biggest thing here is having a steady hand, so what I like to do is get a couple ammo boxes or a couple other boxes. You can expect a review on one of these pretty soon, or really 3 of them because that's how many I have. But just something to rest my hand on to keep my soldering iron as steady as I possibly can. Another thing you want is positive airflow because you don't want to be breathing the melting plastic. So I'm going to turn on a fan, turn on some stuff to help me zone out, and I'll at least show you most of the process so I don't have to make you watch the whole thing because it's probably going to take a couple hours. And then we'll reconvene once we're all done. Alright, so at this point you can see that pretty much all the stippling is done, and you might notice that it's a little bit fuzzy in some places. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take some sandpaper. This is, I believe, maybe 250 grit, and just kind of run over it and just kind of get a lot of that fuzzy stuff off. Now, one thing to keep in mind is even if you don't take it off using the sandpaper, just overuse, it will come off on its own, but for sake of cleaning this thing up, since I'm doing it for someone else, I'm just going to go ahead and run over it with sandpaper, and then we'll put it back together, and then we'll do an overview of how this thing turned out as a whole. Alright, so here we have it. This is pretty much the final product. The only thing I have left to do is to stipple this forward section up here, but it's literally going to be the exact same process where I just stipple it up here at the front. So just as an overview of everything we did, we went ahead and scalloped that magazine weld to make it a little bit easier to get to that magazine release. We undercut the trigger guard, which is going to prevent that callus from forming on your knuckle from shooting all day, as well as allow you to get a little bit higher up on the grip, just make it feel a little bit better. We also undercut the trigger guard here for that reference point for that support hand to come in and fill up that area. And then we went ahead and stippled the entire thing in this kind of, I call it sprinkles pattern, because it almost looks like you dumped a bunch of sprinkles out on a table. I think it came out really well. I'm hopefully going to be able to test fire this tomorrow. Maybe not. Just make sure that everything's good to go. Anytime you modify a handgun, I highly recommend that you actually test it out on the range. Make sure it actually functions before you want to reintegrate it back into your carry. Even if it's a non-invasive thing, it's always just a good thing to make sure everything works as advertised. I've even seen these slide locks where it'll cause issues on some people's handguns. So always be careful, make sure you cover all your bases. But really, this is pretty much it. I really appreciate you guys watching. I hope you were able to get something out of this series. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, go ahead and throw those in the comment section below. I'll try to get back to you as quick as I can. Again, one thing I want to say as a disclaimer, if you do attempt to do any of these modifications, do it at your own risk. If you mess it up severely, then you're going to have to end up buying a whole new frame, so it's not something to be taken lightly. But again, if you feel like not spending a few $100s and sending it off to someone else to do it, and worrying about the pain of sending it to an FFL or having it sent back to an FFL, doing it yourself is a good way to go. So again, I really hope you guys got something out of this video, and I really appreciate you watching.